Growth is supposed to be the big goal for any accounting firm. But what happens when every new client just adds more stress, longer hours, and pushes your team that much closer to burnout? So that's the big paradox we're going to dig into today. How to scale your firm's growth, not its stress. And that really is the fundamental question, right? Because if your firm is successful, you shouldn't feel like you're constantly drowning. And listen, that feeling, it's not a sign you're failing. It's actually a sign your system isn't built to handle the success you've earned.
All right, so first up, let's diagnose the problem. What does it actually look and feel like when a firm is just completely overloaded by its own success?
Okay, does any of this sound familiar to you? Your absolute best people, are they buried in low-level prep work instead of actually advising clients? Are your managers just stuck reviewing instead of shaping strategy? And during busy season, is your team just trying to survive? If you're nodding along to this, listen up. You don't have a people problem, you have a process problem. Big difference.
And the first instinct is always, we just need more people, let's hire. But honestly, that just kicks the can down the road. You get stuck in this endless cycle of training and supervising new staff, which, ironically, pulls your senior people away from the super high-value work they should be doing.
Okay, so if just hiring more people isn't the real fix, then what is? The thing is, the problem isn't a lack of talent. It's not that at all. The real root cause of all this stress, it's capacity. Your whole operation, it just wasn't designed to handle this much success.
And that realization leads us to a much, much smarter question. Instead of just asking, how do we handle more work, we need to be asking this. See, it's a huge shift. You're moving from being reactive to being strategic. It's about building a machine that's actually designed for growth right from the get-go.
Okay, so how do you actually redesign your operations? Well, this brings us to a really powerful tool, outsourcing. But, and this is key, we're not talking about it as just some cheap cost-cutting thing. We're talking about using it strategically to manage and, more importantly, expand your firm's capacity.
Okay, now this slide is really interesting because it breaks down the two main models. On one side, you've got offshore. Think India, for example. This is absolutely perfect for that structured, repeatable work. Things like reconciliations, period-end close stuff. Then you've got nearshore models. Here, the time zones are aligned, which is a huge deal for tasks that need a lot of back and forth, real-time discussion, and judgment calls. So it's definitely not a one-size-fits-all solution. It's all about picking the right tool for the right job.
And this right here, this is such a crucial mindset shift. The goal is not to just, throw work over a wall to some vendor and hope for the best. No, the firms that really nail this, they integrate their outsourced teams. They make them feel like a true extension of their own in-house team.
And this is what that integrated model actually looks like in practice. So you have the offshore teams handling all that heavy lifting, the prep work. And what does that do? It frees up your onshore experts to do what they do best, focus on reviewing, using their judgment, and giving that high-level advice to clients that they love. And the whole thing just runs on this smooth, predictable rhythm of communication.
So, okay, where's a good place to start with all of this? Well, things like bookkeeping, reconciliations, tax return prep, these are perfect candidates. Why? Because they're super time-consuming, but they're also very structured. They are ideal for an outsourced team to handle with total precision, and it gives your team back home some immediate breathing room. All right, so we've got the strategy, but what's the secret sauce? What's the one thing that makes this all work without descending into chaos? Let's dive into the absolute most critical piece for making this growth feel sustainable. And here it is. The antidote is standardization. Think about it. The stress in accounting, it doesn't really come from the work itself. It comes from uncertainty. Undocumented processes, fuzzy handoffs, those last-minute curveballs. Standardization wipes all that away. It makes work predictable. And predictability, that's what kills stress. So what does that actually look like in practice? Well, it's really built on these 4 pillars. First, clear SOPs. So there's one right way to do every task. No guesswork. Second, defined handoffs. So work flows smoothly from one team to the next. Third, consistent templates and formats to get rid of any surprises. And finally, known escalation paths. So when a problem does pop up, everyone knows exactly who to go to and it gets solved fast. This is literally the foundation for a low-stress firm.
But of course, this is always the first question that comes up, and it's a totally fair one. If we start outsourcing and standardizing everything, isn't quality going to take a nosedive?
Well, the answer is actually the complete opposite. Quality improves.
When your whole team is following a clear, documented process, you just eliminate all those little mistakes that happen when people are just relying on memory. Consistency, it turns out, is the bedrock of quality.
And that brings us to the second big worry people have. Is managing an external team just going to trade one kind of busy work for another? Or are you just going to get bogged down in endless coordination meetings?
Nope. Actually, quite the opposite. When your workflows are standardized and everyone's responsibilities are crystal clear, you actually reduce the need for all that back and forth. Everyone knows what they need to do, and the system just works.
And this quote, I think it really just gets to the heart of the whole thing. This entire idea of redesigning your firm is built on a simple belief. You can have both. You don't have to sacrifice your team's well-being for success.
So the bottom line is this: growth should feel like a reward. It should not feel like a punishment. When you redesign your operations for capacity, when you really embrace standardization, you build a firm that can grow and grow without burning out its best people.
And that really leaves us with one last question for you to think about. Take a really honest look at your own firm's operations. Are they actually designed to scale and thrive when new business comes in the door? Or are they just set up to barely survive the next busy season? The answer to that question, well, it could change everything for you.